This is my 1985 Rolls-Royce Corniche. The car is luxurious, it rides great, it's wonderful, but one thing that they just didn't do to these cars back when they built them is put decent stereos. The head unit or the speakers are not very good. So I want to upgrade the speakers in this car. Let's do it. In a previous video, I went through here and tried to fix the speakers in this car. You have like 5-inch speakers back here in this area and then little 3-inch speakers in the door. The reason the speakers in the door are the way they are is for this. Let me show you. Okay, this is pretty interesting. This is where the speaker sits because here in these cars came a bar. I'm not kidding. This is a factory option. Came with a bar in each door, including a flask and shot glasses so that you could drink and drive. It used to be legal to have, you could drink and drive apparently, because here's your bar. Now the way this comes down into the door, you could barely fit this little 3-inch speaker in here. There's just not enough room to put a speaker in the door, so it's going to have to go somewhere else. Okay, so that's not going to work. So I've come up with the idea of putting some pods on the kick panels. This is one of the metal panels that's carpeted that fits down into the footwell area. And what I've got are some of these plastic, these are vacuum molded speaker pods that I'm going to mount. Actually, they'll probably go this way or maybe like this, maybe at an angle. And these are going to mount to the kickwell areas with some 5 1/4 speakers. The speakers I've chosen for this project are Rockford Fosgate. These are a shallow mount, and these are going to fit in here. But there's going to be some modification that I'm going to have to do. I'm also going to put the same speakers in the rear, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do about those. Let's have a look. Now, I'll preface this by saying I'm not an audio expert. I'm sure there's a lot of guys out there that work in the audio field that are going to have your opinions on how to do this. This is just what I've come up with. So these little plastic shells that I got off of eBay or Amazon or whatever, they don't have a backing. I guess they just expect you to just run a screw right through here. So what I've done is I've got these speaker spacers that are a little too large. I'm gonna glue those in to the back side here. When I cut my hole here, I'll be able to access through there and I'll be able to screw in through there. I can reinforce these by putting little screws around them if I want, or staples. We'll cross that bridge here in a second. Then on the tops, I'm going to add another spacer ring that's going to go here. This spacer ring is going to give me just enough height so that this speaker will be able to sit flush in there. Because if I look, the amount of space that the speaker sticks up, I'm going to have to compensate for that. And I'm going to do that using this ring. That's the plan anyway. And then the outside of that will have its grill. But because I want all this to match, I went out and found a paint that I think is as close to the reddish burgundy wine color that's in there. And I'm considering painting the grill itself as well. Rather than having the black Rockford Fosgate grill, I may just go ahead and paint this whole grill in the red color along with the entire thing, so that if you were to glance in there, it would look a little bit more factory, because these black grills are going to stick out quite a bit. So I think if I paint them, it'll hide them a bit. Now for the rear, I'll show you how we do the rear later, but basically there's just this armrest, and it's just a hollow box, and they've just screwed one of these 5-inch speakers on there. Except the ones that are in there are kind of blown, they're old, they're probably 20 years old or more. The first thing I have to do is I have to cut some holes in my little pods here. And how I was thinking about doing that was using this large hole saw that I happen to have that would fit right in there and make a nice hole. And I think it's going to make just the right size hole, I'm thinking. Let me go grab a drill and we'll find out. Yeah. ABS plastic is nasty stuff. Okay, I'm going to glue this trim ring to the inside of this pod, and that'll give us a little bit more of a base at the bottom. It's probably a big waste of time. Okay, now that I have these pods put together, I'm going to paint them. And this is the kick panel. It actually fits in there this way. And I'll probably mount it like this. And so what I'll do is I'll probably just run some screws that go all the way through there with bolts on the other side. This is metal on the back side. I can't cut a hole in this because on the other side of this is a bundle of wires and electronics. So I'm just going to put a long, thin screw with a washer and a nut that'll bolt this on, and then the speaker will bolt here, but I got to get the speaker wire through here. That's the next thing I got to figure out. Okay, so now the next step is I need to pull the radio out, cut the speaker wires, and run new wires from the back of the radio to where the speaker pods are going to go. I'm not going to be able to tap into the harness that runs into the door. We're just going to omit the door speakers, leave them there. I did get these painted, and these are ready to mount, but I've got to go pick up some extra long screws that will go all the way through these into the little rear panel there. So that's going to go in. And I've test fitted it. It's going to fit just on the inside where that brake pedal goes, and the emergency brake just clears it by not less than half an inch, but it clears it once I get it all in there. So we'll have those two speakers running independently of the harness, and then we'll work on this rear. First, I need to get the radio out. We can still use those existing speaker wires, so we don't need to change those. But we have to work on that, so I might as well pull the radio and get that done. First, I got to get the radio out. Looks like they have these little movable slots to put the key into. Very handy. There we go. Very cool. Okay. I gave myself, this is what I get for doing such a great job, because when I installed this stereo, I wrapped the ever-loving heck out of it and shrink wrapped everything so it wouldn't move, and now I got to pay the price. Now I got to unravel all of that work that I did. Thanks, Bob. Looks like this is supposed to be fairly accessible because of the relays and things behind here. I'd like to take a look at it anyway. Ah! Oh yeah, look at that. Okay, I've off camera, I have fed speaker wire through the back up under the console behind the carpets. On both sides here there's a panel that's off here, and so now I've got my excess speaker wire, which I only need to go to right here, which I have plenty of. You always, it's always great to give yourself some slack, and then there's plenty of room back there, because first of all, this is only a half a radio by today's standards. Okay, front left. Yeah, left. All right. I've already got this connected here. I don't want to shorten this side. So I guess, unfortunately, I'm going to have to shorten this other side here. Which, it's kind of a pain in the ass. I mean, these work really well because you're heat shrinking and you're soldering at the same time. So rather than just twisting the wires together or crimping them, they're getting actually soldered together and heat shrinked at the same time. And I guess if you added up the time of doing all those things, probably takes about the same amount of time. It's fairly effortless. The trick though here is you've got these two little rings here that bind, and those create a gripping action to the wire, keep them from pulling out. Okay, I've tested the speakers, the speaker wires, they work. Now all I have to do is pop this back in, and there it goes. That should be popped back in. Okay, the radio's back in, the speaker wires are done. Now I'm gonna have to go to the hardware store to pick up some special long screws to mount the speaker pods, and then we're gonna tackle this back area. That's gonna suck. Okay, I'm going to mount this pod, actually like this, here on the kick panel. I got a hole for the speaker wire to come through. Once this is mounted and then the speaker wire's through, then I'll mount the speaker onto here. That was a little bit of work, but I managed to get the pod mounted to the little carpet thing here, got it screwed back in, and now we're gonna mount the speaker. Just tuck this wire in there, it'll fit. All right, there it is. So the goal, I got my burgundy carpet back in. It's a little off color, but whatever. The goal is to be able to do that. So still works, just barely clears, just barely, but my foot's not gonna be here, it'll be sitting here. So it might get banged up a little bit. That's what the grill's for. Now to do the other side, over there. Whew. There we go. Floor speakers installed. You know, in this light they look a little bit more red. You got 3 different contrasts of red, including the blood on my hands. Oh, this was hard to do. If you want to see the process of how we do all this, you got to go over to our other channel that streams all of our work live, and that's on Bob's Prop Shop streaming webcam. All right, front's done. Got to work on the back. All right, so in the rear, you take the screws off that hold that wooden door cap off. That comes off. It's a few screws down the side. You pull that seat out, nothing holding it in, and then this whole thing just lifts off and lays to the side like that. And there's the speaker. Pretty easy to get to. We're going to remove the speaker. We're going to put in the new thing.
Micro-weddings,
So
and all-inclusive.
the baffles just wasn't going to. It just wasn't going to work. With the wiring and the shape and
information.
the speaker's only half over the little hole. But I mean, it's working. And I can adjust, you know, the way the fade works. So I'm going to put this all back together and see how it rocks. Okay, well, it's all finished and put together. Floor speakers are in. Back is all put back together. This is kind of an uneventful video because I can't really play you music and you wouldn't be able to tell how good it sounds on this video. What did we learn here? Nothing. We learned that I put in this cool Blaupont, I think it's called the Frankfurt. It's a replica of the old tape deck, except it's an MP3 Bluetooth stereo. Then I put in Rockford Fosgate 5.5-inch kickers in these little pods that I cobbled together. And, You know, the thing is when you have a car like this, the stereo is really an afterthought. They didn't start putting nice stereos in these cars until much, much later on. I mean, think about it. You go buy one of the most expensive cars in the world and they put this little speaker in there. But when you consider cars like the Countach and others that were probably in the same kind of price range back then, you know, they didn't have stereos in them either. Look at the F40, you know, they didn't have cup holder. There's no cup holder in this car. I don't know what it was about before the 2000s or whatever. They're like, nah, nobody needs to drink in the car, except, there's no cup holder, but there's a effing bar in the car. There's your cup holder right there. So, this part of the video is complete, I guess. I need to clean the car. It's very dirty. Next project is I'm putting LED headlights in the car, and you can watch me do that. And don't forget, we have our live streaming webcam, this one here, where people are watching me filming this right now on Bob's Prop Shop streaming webcam. So that's live, and you can watch all the work that went into this behind the scenes on our other channel. I'll post a link to that in the video description. Okay, so that was it. That's the video on putting stereo to speakers in the car. The truth is, this went on for more than a week. I had to order all kinds of parts. I had to take apart things, put them back together. So you're actually seeing this video went on for like 2 weeks, I think. Week and a half at least. It was a pain in the ass. That's what it is to own a Rolls Royce or any old car. If you like this kind of stuff, you know what to do. So looking at the 73 that we're working on, you could see that what this dude did was he put these 6x9 kickers down here. Now that one, I think that one has a grill. This one doesn't. You can see the speaker's already been damaged from people's feet. And then he also put in these amplifiers, all Alpine equipment. And I think maybe this is the only way to do this. I think I'm gonna have to copy what this guy did and, you know, run the sub out of that back of that stereo, put an amp of some kind in the back, powered locally with a relay from the battery, and then replicate this. But you know, there's not I don't know if you can get under this. So I got to figure out how he put these speakers in there, but that might be the only way. Because I'm looking at this car, the 73 as an example. And now I see why they put this amp in. What a pain in the ass that had to be, right? But now this is a much older car. This is 1973. But I think that's what's going to happen next. Because, man, I got to have some kind of bass. Oof.